Well, good evening, WNBA and LA Sparks fans, and happy May 1st as we rapidly approach the start of a 2014 WNBA season as we kick off day 5 of Sparks training camp coverage here on Sparks 365 Training Camp Central here on your 24/7 365 comprehensive home of the WNBA and the LA Sparks. The LA Sparks 365 Network. Good Thursday evening, folks. Another scorcher here in Southern California, alongside my go-to man, Chris Romanci from the In and Heart Studios up in Anaheim, California. Cal McClure joining you folks here from Studio 171 in San Diego. Chris, another hot day at the office and at work today. I know about that, man. Have you survived the heat so far with Morven on the way, or how's it going up there?
Yeah, I survived it and just a big day for me today at the office at work.
Including a nickname, Chris, that has no bearing on your initials either. We'll get to that later on, folks, presumably in our next show or later on tonight. Chris, I know you got to take care of something real quick at the house, so you can go ahead and leave for a few minutes if you need to do whatever you need to do, and hop back in here when you get a chance. But, folks, before we real quick, folks, right off the top here, we do have some Sparks news to report from our Sparks resident co-host and analyst, Shorty Mama 24. She announced on Twitter today that the Sparks have waived pretty much almost every training camp invitee that was given a chance to go out with the Sparks Pro team today. In their press release, we're going to pull up the tweet here from Shorty. She head out to the network today. Looking around at this point in time, we're just going to take a quick gander at what we do have recorded here at this point in time. But according to Shorty on Twitter, the Sparks have waived the following players, which includes Elisa Brewer, Nikki Green, Brandy Baker, Brittany Raven, and Daxa Morris. All those players have been waived off the Sparks training camp roster, bringing down their roster total to 14 on the roster for the upcoming season. Folks, again, not a big surprise, though, involving rookies and or players like these players that were mentioned getting waived because, again, there's really no – I don't want to be rude here and say they don't have that they don't have a shot, but it's either because the team is too heavily loaded at one position or they're too inexperienced still this early in their careers, folks. So what I have read, folks, is with the Sparks waiving those players again, it appears to me that they are pretty much set in stone with their roster at this point in time. Again, looking back at the names against folks and what 365 correspondent Shorty Mamba tweeted out today, again, which was quoted and linked to on our Twitter handle, which is at LA Sparks 365. Again, the Sparks again have waived Elisa Brewer, Nikki Green, Brandy Baker, Brittany Raven, and Daxa Morris all off of their roster at this point in time. Again, what we have seen, folks, is now that, at least in my view, what we have seen is it trims the roster size of the Sparks down to 14 players, which means they would have to at least chop 2 more players off the roster to meet the new roster format of the 12-woman roster. So right now they're at 14. At least 2 more players have to be chopped off the roster by May 16th in Seattle. And who they are, folks, I mean, who knows here, but so far I'm putting my money right now at least on Faria Abdi to survive cuts, as well as Anita Slaughter, because I just don't see the value or don't see why you would draft a player, bring them into camp, and then cut ties with them so quickly. So in my view, that's what I think happens. Is once more I don't see though. I mean, why bother, folks? Draft a player like Anita Slaughter, and then all of a sudden just say, okay, we don't want any more of you. We're going to cut you and release you and go from here. I mean, what's the value you see though if you are going to draft a player like her and all of a sudden cut ties with her so quick? So it hasn't happened yet, folks, but we will see what does happen though if in fact they do cut her, they do hang on to her, whatever happens. But again, this point in time, again, a few players have been cut from the rosters with the Sparks. Again, the players, again, once more, that have been cut. Again, reporting in is 365 correspondent Shorty Mamba 24 on Twitter. Again, the Sparks once more have waived Elisa Brewer, Nikki Green, Brandy Baker, Brittany Raven, and Daxa Morris have all been waived by the Los Angeles Sparks from their training camp rosters. Again, folks, Chris Romanti had to take care of something very quick, so he'll be right back in the hangout in a few minutes here, folks. We have a packed show and a packed evening, folks, here. At this point in time, we have a lot to get to throughout the course of our two shows. Again, we'll have Sparks Fam coming up at 10 o'clock, and at 10:30 we'll have the guys with the petition following that to close out our night. Then tomorrow, folks, we'll have more coverage again on Friday night tomorrow night, and then back here on Monday as we inch our way very close here to what will be the 2014 WNBA season, which again the Sparks taking on the Seattle Storm on May 16th in Seattle at 7 p.m. Then of course the Sparks will take on the Phoenix Mercury on Sunday, May 18th at 6 p.m. at Staples Center, with tickets being available on Access.com, LASparks.com, and also available by calling 877-44-SPARKS, 877-44-SPARKS. Again, folks, a reminder again, but time is running out to enter for your chance to enter the current Sparks Enter to Win contest, which again is the all-inclusive 2 press passes to 2 lucky fans for Sparks Media Day. Enter today right now at LASparks.com for your chance to go behind the scenes of Sparks Media Day from LA Southwest College. And again, folks, the Sparks Loans preseason home game is this upcoming Saturday next week against the Chinese National Women's Olympic Basketball Team, Saturday, May 10th, 2 p.m. at LA Southwest College. Tickets are available, again, by calling 877-44-SPARKS or online at LASparks.com. Folks, on the Twitter sphere right now, real quick, we did get word today from Candace Wiggins from her IG account, folks. She has landed back home, and when I say home, folks, I mean landing back home in sunny San Diego, California. So she is back from her overseas commitment back in San Diego. I'm sure she'll take a few days to recuperate, and then head on up to LA to begin her training camp commitment. Candace Parker and Christy Tolliver should be back in town sometime over the weekend, and as should Jantel Lavender with their overseas commitments wrapping up sometime soon. Again, folks, a packed show for you folks, or at least a packed block tonight. We'll have Sparks Fam, our go-to show here for tweets, IG photos, emails, and much more coming up at 9:30. Then at 10 o'clock, we'll have the guys with the petition here as we sit here now, officially the first day of May, and now 15 days away from the start of the season, and 17 days away right now from the start of the 2014 home schedule. Again, folks, you can purchase your tickets by calling 877-44-SPARKS, 877-44-SPARKS, or your seats online at LASparks.com or through Access, AXS.com. Folks, in case you were wondering, you can check out CJ Simpson, the talented and the bright and awesome Staples Center in-game host. She has returned, folks, with CJ's Close-Up, folks. You can go to her page by going to LASparks.com and going underneath the Fan Zone drop-down bar and drop-down menu and click on CJ's Close-Up to watch her interviews. And she has done a few recent ones. She did, by the way, just do one a few earlier today with new Sparks draftee Ananita Slaughter. So again, head on over to LASparks.com, click on the Fan Zone drop-down menu, and then check out CJ's Close-Up also on her YouTube channel and also on Sparks.com. Again, folks, to say it again, but again, you can follow the network now, folks, on Twitter. Our Twitter handle, again, folks, is at LASparks365. That is at LASparks365. So again, follow us on Twitter, folks, and invite your friends to follow us as well. And we will be posting in when we're going on with shows, any breaking news, up to the minute analysis and thoughts and other things included. And again, folks, follow us on Twitter. Again, that is at LASparks365. Folks, we're going to get to some quick news here that we have not had a chance here, folks, to kind of talk about as of late. But if you missed the WNBA draft, folks, you are fully aware about the trade that went down before during the draft between the Connecticut Sun and the New York Liberty, which saw Tina Charles get traded to the New York Liberty. Last week, the Connecticut Sun traded Tina Charles to the New York Liberty in a trade that surprised many WNBA fans. It seemed like everyone was trying to weigh in on the matter except Charles, who is currently over in Russia finishing up her season playing for the Moscow Dynamo. WNBA.com reached out to Charles to give her the opportunity to speak on the matter. These are her words, unfiltered, about her decision to leave Connecticut and join the New York Liberty. WNBA.com asks, obviously you grew up in New York and made a name for yourself in high school playing basketball, but what does playing for the New York Liberty mean to you? Tina says, it's a blessing, it's a dream come true. I was born and raised in Jamaica, Queens, where I'm from. People don't always get what they want. This was always the dream. My mom always took me to the Liberty games. Growing up, my AAU team played during halftime of their games. I was a part of their ball ceremony when the starting five was also called out. The fact that I'm able to say when I'm retired, God willing, the fact that I'll be able to play at the Garden at a part of the New York Liberty is just a blessing. WNBA.com also asked, when you were in Connecticut, you were already committing 2 to 3 hours every moment you could to be with family and friends back in New York. What do you think it will be like to have them at your home games more often now? She says, it's really great. My mom and dad are the biggest Liberty and New York Knicks fans. For them to be there courtside and to see me live every time. My mom works in the Empire State Building, so it's just a short walk for her to see me at the Garden. It's a great thing not only just for me, but for my family and close friends. Tina, it comes as a surprise to many people when the news broke out about you requesting a trade to New York. I don't want to get into a he said, she said about what's been printed out there, but for the fans, can you explain your thought process as to what led to your decision? Tina Charles says, when it came down to it, I had a great experience in Connecticut. From my UConn days, UConn fans are the same fans that come out to Mohegan. They supported me and my other teammates very well. It was a great atmosphere. Mohegan Sun is a very close-knit arena, and you just always felt them there. But the bigger picture was I had an opportunity to play in New York where I grew up, to play alongside Cappie Pondexter and Essence Carson, as well as play for Bill Laimbeer. I just saw the idea of winning a championship. I just looked at the big picture. A lot of times you're going to have people stay in the moment, and that was my moment right then and there. It was to go to the Liberty, and I'm really happy with the decision that I made. Well, folks, in my view, respect the decision of the player. I mean, when you play when you're born in a city and you've idolized and you've watched the team for so many years, whether it's the Liberty or the Sparks or the Mercury, and you grow up and want to play for these guys, and then you get denied of your dream to go play somewhere else, it hurts because, you don't have your family, your friends, people that you grew up with at your games all the time. They're either back home watching on television, following the games online, on live access, or keeping up with you on Facebook or Twitter, and it's tough. And in my view, respect Tina Charles' decision, folks. If she wanted to go back to play in New York, in her hometown, respect the decision, folks, because a lot of people see it more so as a headache to play in your hometown. The best example I can give, folks, is Mark Trumbo, who used to play for the Angels, now playing with the Diamondbacks. He grew up literally a stone's throw away, folks, from Angel Stadium, and he was drafted by the Angels in 2008, made his debut in the pros in 2011. And he said it wasn't a headache at all for him playing in his hometown because it was an easy drive. He had all of his his family and friends and everyone that he grew up with at his home games. Now that he's with Arizona, they can't do that like they used to in Anaheim. So, in my view, if I ever got a chance, folks, to play with the Padres or the Chargers or the Sockers, I'm gonna take that opportunity and run because not many times are you gonna be surrounded, folks, by your family, friends, people that you grew up with, back in your high school days at your home games. If you're playing for someone, somewhere else, if you're playing, in LA and you're from San Diego, or you're playing Phoenix and stuff like that, people. And I totally 100% respect Tina's decision, folks, to go play with, go and play with the New York Liberty because, again, she's from Jamaica, Queens at least, not the actual country of Jamaica, folks, but, the small suburb in Queens. And, her mom works in the Empire State Building. It's a walk. It's an easy walk, folks. I've done it before, an easy walk from the Empire State Building, folks, to the Garden. So, I mean, I don't see what the big deal is about, her leaving Connecticut, folks, because now Connecticut has future stars, Shania Gumake, Elisa Thomas, many other players coming, with the Sun now, and it's up to them now to sort of carry the load now, I guess, at this point in time. Folks, back on the Sparks. Well, actually, folks, going back to what we talked about last night here again about Stephanie Dolson. again, the very bright and very funny and very humorous player enough for the Washington Mystics, folks. Again, if you haven't caught it yet, but the multi-talented, ever charismatic Stephanie Dolson of the Washington Mystics checked one celebrity off her celebrity dance-off list last night when she made her appearance on the Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. Though no winner was declared, Dolson looks like a real pro, saying, "I was born ready." Close quote. Dolson has also challenged President Barack Obama to a dance-off, which he has accepted, provided the cameras are turned off, adding, quote, "That's more Michelle's territory," close quote. And then earlier in the day, Dolson also accepted Fallon's NBA Jam challenge in which she admired defeat. However, we're willing to bet that Dolson could take Fallon on the real basketball court any day of the week. You know what, folks? These are the players that I absolutely would love to have on my team. If you have a player like Stephanie Dolson, again, who goes out there, folks, and busts her tail the whole game, but at the same time, she jokes, she has fun, she's laid back, and she has that great, great outgoing personality, folks. And trust me, she is going to be a player that everyone, not just Mystic fans, folks, but everyone across the league will fall in love with quick. I already have when she was with UConn, and right now, I mean, wow. I mean, folks, it is going to be tremendously awesome to see Stephanie Dolson play this year. I'm thinking about right now going to the game when the Sparks play the Mystics at Staples Center this July. But again, we're going to see, folks. But again, you know, these are the players that you love to associate yourself with. Is, you know, players like Stephanie Dolson, you know, that have the great work ethics, that just go about their business, play hard for the full 40 minutes. And then off the court, they'll do the Washington Wiggle. I guess we're calling it now the Washington Wiggle. I guess we're calling it now. Dancing, video games, and just a very, very humorous, very laid back, calm, cool, collective, and charismatic attitude. Always love when you have teammates that same way. Also, folks, on WNBA.com. But again, the first ever WNBA preseason tournament is set for the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex down in Orlando, Florida, featuring Minnesota, Chicago, Indiana, and Phoenix. Folks, a quick note from the Chicago Sky real quick is what I think is fantastic, folks, is Elena Del Don, again, folks, as you may know, went to Delaware, the University of Delaware, and again, not really, folks, known as a bright basketball school. Again, not really known well for athletics, but she went there and went to Chicago, folks. The Sky this year are actually playing 2 of their preseason games, folks, at Delaware, where the fans can come out and watch EDD play in person, folks. And I'll tell you what, this is tremendous, folks. Elena has a great story, folks. I don't know if you guys may have caught it on ESPN this past season, but there was a great little 30 for 30, I think, or little Sporting Life sort of feature on Elena Del Don that sort of characterized her life in when she was going to Delaware, folks. For those of you that may not know, EDD, Elena does battle a rare disease, I believe. But also the bigger story, folks, was again, Elena also has a sister, older sister than her, and she has severe cerebral palsy, folks. And it was a very great story, folks. I mean, because when you have athletes like this that have these sort of knockdown comeback stories, whether it's the birth of a child, like with Lisa Leslie and Candace Parker, injury, health. They've had many obstacles that they've had to overcome in their lives. It's always those athletes that I really have even more respect for because they go through stuff behind the scenes that no one really knows about. I think it's fantastic that the Sky are actually playing a few of their preseason games over at Delaware University, where Elena did go to college. And I think also it's good, and also it's going to be a good sort of welcoming home sort of environment here for EDD coming back to Delaware to be able to see her family and friends, and also again play in front of the rowdy crowd that she played at for many years over there. Folks, I don't know if you're aware of this, folks, but we do have a couple of upcoming preseason games coming up tomorrow and across the weekend in the WNBA. Preseason schedule, folks, as follow. We have a game tomorrow morning at 11 let's see what time of the day here, at 9:30 Pacific time, 12:30 Eastern, folks. We have the Stars and Shock at 12:30 p.m. Then Sunday we'll have New York at Connecticut at 1 p.m. Eastern, and then Monday we'll have 2 preseason games: Mystics at Indiana at 12 Eastern, Australia at Minnesota 5 p.m. Pacific time, Tuesday the 6th, Tulsa at San Antonio, Wednesday Indiana at Washington, Thursday Connecticut at New York, and then China, the Chinese national basketball team, will be playing the Storm at 2 o'clock Pac time in the preseason game. Friday, Indiana at Chicago, 3 p.m., Phoenix at Minnesota, 5:30. Then on Saturday the 10th, China at LA, 2 o'clock. New York at Atlanta at noon on Sunday. And then LA at Seattle on the 11th at 1 p.m. And then the last 2 preseason games, China at Tulsa, 5 p.m. Monday. And then Tuesday, Washington and Chicago, 4 p.m. So folks, we're going to get rolling here with the season early here. Again, we got games tomorrow again. Again, the lone preseason game tomorrow again features the Stars and Shock. Game time set tomorrow for 9:30 Pac, 12:30 Eastern. Check the game out, I believe, on the Stars website tomorrow morning. All right, folks, we're going to get to the next club we're going to be getting to here to talk about for the season. As it looks like Chris Romancy, again, folks, Chris had to check out for a few minutes here, so I'm going to resend him the link to get in here when he'll be back in time to talk about the San Antonio Stars for our next club here we're going to get to. And then tomorrow, folks, we'll preview the season for the New York Liberty at this point in time. So, again, we're going to invite Chris Romancy back and then hang out here, folks. So we're going to do so. See if I can get him back in here through the Hangouts here. See what we got. Go just here to invite people, and we'll punch in his name, and we'll go from here. All right, see what happens. And all right, so invite has been posted, so we'll wait for Chris to pop on in here, folks, as, again, we're going to be previewing the season for the up-and-coming San Antonio Stars, folks, again, coming off of their third-to-worst record last year in the postseason. So again, folks, our upcoming teams tomorrow, once more, again, is going to be the Stars tonight, and then tomorrow will be the New York Liberty on tomorrow as well. So again, folks, we're trying to get Chris Romancy back in the Hangout here, so you'll try to get him back in here in some small capacity. See what we got here. Trying to find out where he's at. So let's do it this way. So again, folks, just waiting here on Chris Romancy to hop back in here, folks. And again, coming up in about 7 minutes here, folks, will be our interactive free-flowing open forum, which will be Sparks Fam coming up next at coming up in about 7 minutes or so here, folks, on the LA Sparks 365 network. So again, folks, so be ready to send in your tweets, your Instagram photos, emails, live Q&A, and much more coming up here in about 6.5 minutes here on the LA Sparks 365 network here, folks, as we are rejoined here in the Hangout by Chris Romancy from the In and Heart Studios up in Anaheim, California. Chris, don't worry about missing much of the show, man. Didn't really talk about a whole lot, just kind of rehashed stuff from last night. Still hot up there, man, and how's it hanging?
Nothing much. I'm just got back, taking the trash out, and really hot.
Yeah, I mean, there's no cooling trend, I think, in the future. Chris, back in time here to preview the next team we're going to be previewing here for our 12 clubs in 12 days here, Chris, which will be the San Antonio Stars, Chris, coming off of the third-to-worst record last year, Chris, for a team that had a lot of good players last year, man, but, again, ravaged by injuries. Notably, Chris, the freak injury that we saw on television involving Becky Hammon shredding her ACL last year, Chris. And after that, Chris, it was just Danielle Robinson, Chris, putting the team on her back and the perm. And didn't go so well, Chris. It was a sinking ship last year, man. What did you take away from the Stars season other than maybe injuries, Chris, and perhaps lack of depth? What do you think?
Yeah, just lack of depth with injuries, with Becky Hammon, and another great season for the San Antonio Stars last season.
Chris, the Stars, I think, with this sort of rebrand offseason, again, they dropped the silver part from their team name. They got new uniforms, a new sponsor in local supermarket company HEB. You know, I think the future, I think, Chris, for them starts this season. And, Chris, it's going to start with a player from a familiar foe to you Duke Lady Blue Devil fans out there. That'd be Kayla McBride from Notre Dame, Chris. Selected 3rd overall in the draft this past April. The 5'11" guard from Notre Dame, Chris, led the Irish all the way to the NCAA tournament final this year. Of course, succumbing to the UConn Huskies this past season. Was also named a first-team All-American, Naismith Trophy finalist, and a finalist for the Wade Trophy. For the Wade Trophy, was also named the ACC Player of the Year after averaging 17 points per game and averaging 14.1 over her 4-year career at Notre Dame. Chris, again, the future, I believe, starts for the Stars this year, and it starts, I think, Chris, with Kayla McBride. Chris, she has plenty of veteran leadership around her, with Becky Hammon, Chris, in her 15th season, and, of course, Chris, Danielle Robinson. Again, Chris, we know about your hatred for Notre Dame women's basketball because you're a big Duke fan and stuff like that, and what happened in the tournament, or at least the ACC tournament this year, Chris. But again, Kayla McBride, Chris, was at least the number 2 best player, I think, this year, behind a lot of players, Chris, from either Breanna Stewart of UConn, Shania Gumake from Stanford, now with Connecticut, Chris. Do you think the future for the Stars starts this year, or is it going to be a little bit of a waiting process like Tulsa and Connecticut right now with, new players coming in, Chris, and, either players leaving or players coming out from injury, Chris? So what do you think here?
I'm thinking maybe this season, but I don't know. I have most likely probably next season it starts.
Chris, it's going to take at least a year, I think. I think they're going to contend for a while, Chris, but I think they're going to fizzle out towards the end, perhaps, again. Kayla McBride, Chris, will be their X factor, I think, next season. Not this year, Chris, but 2015. She's going to be off the wall next season. So, again, we're just going to have to see what occurs with the Stars this upcoming season. And, Chris, by the way, the Stars actually kicked off our preseason schedule for the WNBA tomorrow morning at 9:30. They're going to be taking on the Tulsa Shock in Tulsa tomorrow morning. So, Chris, technically, Chris, the season, I guess, starts tomorrow, looks like, with the Stars taking on Tulsa.
Yep, agreed. So, just can't wait. Season starts pretty much tomorrow.
Chris, what are your expectations right now for the Stars for this 2014 season? Again, we know about them coming off of the 5th place finish in the Western Conference last season. We know about the injuries they had last year, the lack of depth issues. What are you expecting out of them this season? Not a whole lot, or is there upside or downside, I think, for the Stars this season? Right now I'm looking at this way right now, but then again, that could change very quick.
Yep, agreed. I probably have them having a roller coaster up and down season and probably maybe barely making it into the playoffs or missing out not that much.
Chris, I think the 4th spot is actually up for grabs because I believe the top is already going to be, pretty much sharpied into place, Chris, between the Lynx, the Sparks, and the Mercury. And then, Chris, that 4th spot could be any of those other bottom 3 teams. The Storm, it could be San Antonio, Chris, it could be Tulsa. In my view, Chris, I think the 4th spot right now is still Seattle's because eventually, Chris, they're gonna get bodies back either with Lauren Jackson if she ever comes back, which I think, Chris, she is out for the year with her ACL and MCL injuries. So right now, Chris, they're sort of sputtering out of control because Sue Bird, Chris, can't carry the whole load for the whole season. She's probably going to be retiring sometime soon, Chris, because she's been around the league a long time as well. So, Chris, I might pencil in the Stars to the 4th spot, but I'm not going to go to it right away until I see how they actually play this season.
Yep, agreed.
So, folks, tomorrow night when we go back and preview teams, folks, we'll be previewing the New York Liberty. Tomorrow night we'll talk about them and, of course, the infamous Bill Lambier as their head coach and everything else included, and also with former Spark Ebony Hoffman over there and also Tennessee alumnus Megan Simmons now playing with New York. We'll talk about the Liberty tomorrow night back here on the Sparks 365 Network. Chris, your final thoughts here before we get ready to call it a night here for 365 and head on over to Sparks Fan, man. Here we are, man. May 1st.
Yep, agreed. May 1st, just 14 more days until season starts. Just can't wait. And, yeah, May 1st already. Here we go.
May 1st is here, folks, so we'll take our brief break. When we come back, folks, tweets, IG photos, emails, Q&A, folks. Sparks Fam is up next right here on the LA Sparks 365 Network. And Yep, there it is right there, folks. So we will take our brief pause. When we come back, folks, send them in. Your tweets, your IG photos, your emails, and, of course, your live Q&A, folks. All that and more up next right here on the LA Sparks 365 Network. Don't go anywhere.